Hi, I'm Josh with Woodland Mills, and in this video we hope to have a discussion about our 3 sawmill models that'll help you focus your research on the model that's best suited for your needs. Behind me are the 3 models all lined up. We've got our HM122 with a 22-inch log capacity, our HM126 with the 26-inch log capacity, and the HM130 model with the 30-inch log capacity. Now the log capacity I speak of is the diameter of the log that you can pass through the guides, through the mill itself, and make your cut. So the length of that log on all 3 mills as a standard is 10 feet. And all 3 of those mills can be upgraded to whatever length you'd like. So the length of the material you have to work with isn't a determining factor, it's the diameter of the material. So if your logs are greater than 22-inch, then the 22-inch mill is probably not your best fit. If your logs are all greater than 26-inch, the 26-inch mill is probably not your best fit. So the first factor is how big is your material today, and how big do you suspect material will ever come to you. So if you're in an area of the country where all the logs are smaller, then that's a determining factor for you, and you can factor that into your decision. If right now you just have a few logs that are 24-inch, then the HM126 is well suited. But if you think logs are going to come down or come your way that are larger than 26-inch, then maybe the 130 is the way to go. The next point I want to touch on that'll help you focus your research is going to be the projects that you have in mind, or the scope of work. So if you have large projects in mind, where you have a capacity for 5,000 board feet of lumber, or 10,000 board feet of lumber. You're building a barn, you're building a garage, you're building multiple buildings on your property. The amount of board feet you can cut in an hour starts to become an important equation for you, because it's time spent behind the mill as opposed to time spent building your project. We're going to run a demo with all 3 of these mills on these 16-inch oak logs that we've got laid on them, and we're going to do a board foot calculation that'll give you the board feet of lumber per hour. And we're going to be cutting 4/4, so slightly over an inch, boards out of each of them, and we're going to run them simultaneously so you can see just how quick one cuts over the other. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to take square cants, and we're going to run them not simultaneously overlaid, but we're going to run them with 3 operators all at the same time, and we're going to shoot these things against each other. It's going to be a head-to-head cut. 1, 2, 3, and you'll be able to see how much quicker the 14 horsepower is than the 7 horsepower. And hopefully that can help you, again, focus your research on the model that best suits you, the scope of project you have to do, and the time you have to do it. So when we look at the time and the board feet, that brings me to the horsepower. So all of the mills behind me have an engine that's large enough to cut any type of material you put on it in the diameter that we've spec'd it for. So we have a 7 horsepower engine on the 22-inch model, we have a 9.5 horsepower engine on the 26-inch model, and we have a 14 horsepower engine on the 30-inch model. Now when you see the cut times run, you'll be able to compare the actual numbers, but it's quite linear, the speed of cut to the horsepower. So again, we're going to overlay these so you can see the exact times on the same material, on the same log sizes, and then you'll get a good idea of how much quicker one is over the next. We find that a lot of clients will get between 2 models the comparison based on their log dimensions, what they think's coming, and how much milling they're going to be doing. So we want to do some brief comparisons between the HM122 and the HM126, and then we'll do the HM126 to the HM130 models. And again, hopefully we can help you narrow your research on the model that's best suited, and then we'll take it from there with the shootouts. So on my right is the 122 sawmill, and on my left is the 126. We have in-depth videos on both of these models available that cover all the points and features much more in depth than this 10-point comparison I want to do now. So to start with the 10 points, we're going to do the log capacity. The 122 is a 22-inch diameter. The 126 is a 26-inch diameter, and that's your total log capacity. For lengths, they both do 10 feet, and you can add extensions to both of them. Next, I want to talk about the engines. So we've got the Kohler Command Pro series in a 7 horsepower on the 122, and we've got the Kohler Command Pro 9.5 horsepower on the 126. On the 126, we've got the 4-post design. And on the 122, we have the 2-post design. The lube tank on the 122 is a 3-liter plastic versus a 10-liter aluminum tank on the 126. The distance between the blade guides on the 122 is 19 inches, with a cut height of 6 inches above the blade. On the 126, the distance between the guides is 21 inches, with a max of 7 inches above the blade. You can see here, with the 122, we've got it shimmed up off the beam. And that's because it doesn't come with leveling feet, whereas the 126 comes with a set of 12 leveling legs. Now that helps you with the speed of the initial setup, and also if you're packing the mill or putting it away and then resetting it up at different locations, the leveling feet will make that go quicker. I want to look at the log clamp. On the 126, we have the quick snap log clamp. And on the 122, we have the screw style log clamps. The next point I want to touch on is the head adjustment. On the 126 model, we have a lead screw with a linear drive. So what that does is every turn is equal. So not only do you have the log scale to work with, but you also have the ability to just count turns and lock your cut. So if you do 4 turns and you lock your cut, every board will be the same as long as you do 4 turns. So your repeatability on the 126 for your cuts. You can use the scale, or you can go by counting your turns. On the 122, because of the winch, you have to go down past your cut and then bring it back up to lock it. So you're going to need to use the log scale to set every cut on the 122 model. The next, you'll see the size difference between the two models, and it's easy to compare them now that they're side by side. But we have a total product weight of the 126 at 800 pounds, and a total product weight of the 122 is 460 pounds. So there's quite a bit more metal in the 126 model. It's heavier, it can hold larger logs and cut larger logs. I hope this quick comparison with the 10 points has been helpful. Now I want to move on and do the quick 10 points between the 126 and the 130 models. So now I've moved over and I've got the 130 model on my left and the 126 model on my right. So again, we'll talk about the log capacity, 26-inch log capacity diameter, 30-inch log capacity for the max diameter. We'll touch on the motors. So 9.5 Kohler Command Pro versus the 14 horsepower Kohler Command Pro. So we're up in the horsepower so we can tackle those larger logs. Both of these have 4-post designs. This done with a 2x2 metal, this done with a 2x3 metal. We've got lube tank differences, both aluminum now, but we go from a 10-liter to a 13-liter. The distance between the guides. So on the 126, we have a fixed distance at 21 inches. On the 130, we have a 22-inch maximum, but now with an adjustable blade guide, we can take that down to 13.5. Our max board depth, so the distance between the blade and the top of the throat here is 7 inches on both mills. Both of these mills come with leveling legs, set of 12. The log clamp is a quick clamp on both of these machines, and the head adjustment is done the exact same on both. So we have the same linear adjustment on both the 126 and the 130 models. In the weight, we have 800 pounds on the 126, and we move to 850 pounds on the 130. One reason for that is our stainless steel bunk covers, as well as just the engine size and the enlarged frame dimensions. I hope this quick comparison has been helpful. Now I want to get these mills fired up. Starting with the 122 sawmill, we're going to mill through all 3 of these logs, and we'll get those on the screen for you so you can compare. So, to conclude, you saw me work each of the sawmills. The HM122 put together 72 board feet. The HM126 cut 87 board feet. And the HM130, because the log was a little bit larger in diameter, managed to squeak out 102 board feet. Now I left the live edge planks 4 per mill and calculated them in the board footage, because edging the logs is pretty much the same process on all 3, and it's not going to change the board footage per hour calculation significantly. We're going to give you the board foot per hour, the theoretical board foot per hour. We're going to display it on the screen so you can see the actual stats once we put the time to the board footage. In conclusion, you're going to see that although I have more horsepower and I can make quicker cuts with the HM130, there's also quite a few fixed tasks that I have to do as the sawyer that don't change with, between the 2 mills. So the quick lock is quicker than the screw lock, but when we go between the 126 and the 130, it still takes time to clamp it, turn it, and that time is equal on these 2 machines. Unloading the boards and where you're going to stack them. So if I had a tailman or someone helping me that could take those boards off as soon as my blade broke through the end and I could start coming back, I could increase the board footage yield. If I have because of the way we're set up here, I had to walk around the end of the mill as opposed to putting the boards at the back where you wouldn't have seen them. So there's quite a few variables in the board foot calculation in terms of board feet per hour. And it's important when comparing mills that you understand the entire task, not just, if I just timed 1 cut through a square board and that cut takes 9 seconds, well, if I extrapolate that to an hour, I could theoretically give you a board foot per hour, but that's not realistic. You have to factor in the turning, the clamping, the handling of the logs, how big the log is as well, because as the logs get larger, they're harder to handle and harder to turn, but they'll also yield significantly more bore feet. So lots of considerations. So now we want to take away all those variables. And we're going to just take a cant of the same width, we're going to set it on all 3 machines, and we're going to run them head to head, toe to toe, same material, same cant width, already clamped, engines running, and we'll show you how the actual cut is different through each machine, and I hope that'll help you compare them as well. So we brought in Neil on the 126 and Adam on the 122. We did a straight shootout, and that was a 12-inch wide white oak board. Those cants were each milled from the exact same log, milled today, placed on those. We left the blade on each mill the exact same as it was as we milled the first log. So each blade had seen one oak log before. And we just wanted to show the direct comparison in the actual cut time, because there's a few other factors, turning, clamping, loading, maneuvering, that's going to affect your board feet per hour. But you can see the direct relation between the 122, the 126, and the 130 in terms of what the horsepower does for getting that sawdust out of the way and getting that cut made. I hope you've enjoyed this video. We had a bit of fun there with the shootout ourselves. This has been Josh with Woodland Mills.